Hi, are you in the process of applying for British citizenship? Or are you unsure about what documentation is required in order to apply for British citizenship? Then you need to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what are the criteria for applying for a British citizenship through naturalization. And I'm also going to be talking about the documentation that is required to become a British citizen based on naturalization and my own personal experience.
Get strong.
Hello and welcome to The Nimble Nomad. My name is Arjun, and on this channel we talk about the tips, tricks and hacks to survive and thrive in the UK, and I share my personal experience of living life in the UK. In this video, I'm actually going to be talking about what is the process to become a British citizen through naturalization. And I'm also going to be sharing the documents that are required in order to apply for British citizenship through naturalization. Now, when I say that, I'm actually going to be talking about the documents that have been requested off of me for my application. And I'm actually going to be showing you step by step what is it that I'm submitting for each one of the application requirements from a documents perspective. Now, before I get into the main content of this video, I do want to clarify that I have not yet submitted my application to become a British citizen but through naturalization, and I'm actually in the process. So if you're watching, like you, I'm actually in the same boat as you, and I'm about to submit my application. So I'm at the point where I'm just collating my documentation. So hopefully whatever I've got here will help you out as well. So with that done, let's get into the main content of the video. So what are the actual criteria for becoming a British citizen? So before I actually talk about that, I do want to clarify that there are many routes to becoming a British citizen. In my specific case, I'm talking about becoming a British citizen after having moved to the UK and doing this through naturalization and also not being married to a fellow British citizen. So this is pretty important because there are multiple criteria and the criteria vary depending on your personal circumstance. So in my circumstances, that's the situation. Now, also the other thing is I just want to clarify that because Brexit is coming up, there are probably a lot of people who are EU or EEA citizens. So in my case, I'm neither an EU citizen or an EEA citizen, neither am I married to one as well. So that's another qualifying statement that I just want to make clear. Now, in case any of the criteria that I'm talking about, which I've used for my citizenship route, are not applicable to you and you're quite unsure about what applies to you, then I'll add a link in the description below, which you can go and click and check what route you would have to go through if you wanted to apply for British citizenship. So in my case, in order to become a British citizen, the criteria to do so was that I only needed to have a indefinite leave to remain for 1 year. So a equivalent of 12 months after having received my indefinite leave to remain. Now, for those of you who aren't sure what a indefinite leave to remain is, I did a separate video on it in a lot of detail, which is actually really popular on my channel. I'll add a link of that in there and in the description below. So please go ahead and watch that if you're curious and want to know how to get a indefinite leave to remain in the UK. So as I said, I'm still in the process of applying for my British citizenship, and I'm at the point where I've completed the application form, but I haven't submitted it yet. So once you fill out all the details that the UK government actually requires, you get to a page on the application form which tells you what documentation is required in order to formally submit a application for British citizenship through naturalization and to support your case essentially. So I'm at the point where I've completed the details, but I still need to submit this. Now, what I want to do is I want to share the documentation that I have been asked for, because I think it'll help out a lot of other people who are probably applying for their British citizenship as well. And I'll be talking about what they've asked for and especially show what I'm going to be submitting for each one of the requirements that are going to be talked about. So that's the key thing that I want to share here. Right, so basically, in order to apply for my British citizenship, I have taken a screenshot of all the documents that were asked and requested for. I'm going to run through this list very quickly, and then what I'll do is I'm going to then talk about what document I'm going to submit for each one of these items. So basically, there are a few items, and the first one is obviously the passport. The next one is a list of, or rather a letter, which talks about my qualifications for education, which meet the minimum requirements for the UK, and also a ability to speak English. The next one is a transcript for the level of English language required, which I believe is related to the second point. The third one is basically my indefinite leave to remain, and how I got unlimited time restrictions on ability to stay in the UK. The fourth one is my biometric residence permit. So this is obviously whatever I'm supplying here will apply here as well. And then I've got to prove my ability to stay in the UK for 5 years. Now, this is a bit similar to all of the documents that I'm providing previously, but I'll go in through a little bit more detail. Now, there are differences for each type of person. So if you are, obviously married to somebody who is a British citizen versus somebody who's not married, and also if you're a EU or EEA national, then the requirements will be quite different. For me, this is what applies, and I think what they're in essence asking for is my passport and where it's been stamped for entry and exit within the UK. I think what they want to validate possibly here is how many times I've gone in and out and whether I've met the requirements for staying in the UK. And then finally, it's the referee declarations, and I'll go into a bit more detail into that as well. So the first one is obviously my passport. I'm not going to show you my passport, but what I'm planning to do is I'm going to be scanning the first 2 pages as well as the back 2 pages of my passport, and I'm going to be submitting that because that proves my identity essentially, and it provides a bit of context as to and validation that I am the person who I say I am applying for this. Pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know what this is. The next one is a NARIC education and English certificate. Now, I submitted this actually for my indefinite leave to remain application, and I've shown this exact same document there as well. So what I did was for my undergrad as well as my master's degree. So I have 2 degrees that I got after I graduated from high school. I submitted those to this independent body, which is called NARIC, and they actually do this on behalf of the Home Office. So they give you, once you submit your required documentation to prove that you've studied and you've achieved the minimum educational requirements, as well as the ability to speak in English, because that is something that is required, then they give you these 2 letters. So one is they give you a letter which is about the academic qualification, and the other one is your English language proficiency statement. Now, both of these basically are requirements. Both of these which are requirements which basically tell you that tell the government that you have met the basic requirements. There's a scale on which they do it, but they give it to you. If you've done the ILR, frankly speaking, you should have the documentation, and it's the exact same thing that you have submitted for your indefinite leave to remain that needs to be submitted here. Just in case you're doing it for the first time, it is worth noting that it takes about 2 to 2.5 weeks to actually get it under the standard process, and it does cost a fair amount of money. I think it's about 100 to 200 pounds. I'm not sure. You're gonna have to look that up, just as a heads up. Okay, fine. So the next one they've asked for is a official transcript. So this one I wasn't quite sure about because it's a bit weird, because I submitted my official transcript in order to get the NARIC letters that I showed you on the previous screen, but they've asked for it again. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to share the actual transcript. So this is one of my transcripts for my master's degree, and basically it's just going to show the grades that I've gotten and what the program is and when it was completed and when I joined and all of that stuff, and the university names. I've just blanked those out. And then what I'm going to be talking about is then I'm going to share is two letters. So one which actually I got especially for my indefinite leave to remain application, which basically said I fulfilled all the requirements and I did graduate and I was awarded. So this is an MBA and I graduated. And then the second part to this is I have a letter from the university as well to say that the course was taught completely in English as well. So hopefully that would be enough documentation. I'm expecting that if they're not happy with it or if they need anything further, they're probably going to get back in touch with me, especially around this. But I do think this is enough. And I'm going to do this for both my master's as well as my undergraduate degree. So next one is obviously my immigration and so proof of immigration and my current BRP card. So they've asked for a proof of immigration that I don't have any time restrictions. Now that obviously I have because I have an indefinite leave to remain. That's in essence what indefinite leave to remain is. And then I've got to then also provide my current BRP card, which is basically the same thing. So they're a bit redundant. I think there's different criteria in some scenarios, so that's why they're asking for two documents. But in my case, it's literally the ILR BRP card, which I'm going to scan and send. I've obviously blanked out all the important details here so that you can't see it, but yeah. And then they've asked for proof of residence. So they are basically wanting to see when did I first enter the UK and basically my travel history in and out of the UK. So when you fill up the application form for naturalisation to become a British citizen, they do ask about your travel history for the last 5 years. Now, when you do your ILR, they ask for your 5 years as well. And when you do your citizenship, they ask for 5 years as well. Now, in my case, there's only an elapsed period of 1 year. And in this last year, because of this whole 2020 situation, I've not really traveled anywhere. So it's not very different. But basically, I just needed to provide all of those details in the actual application form. So I'm assuming my passports for the last 5 years. I've had actually two passports because one expired. So I'm going to scan all of the pages showing all of the stamps in and out of the UK as well as wherever I've traveled so that they can see it and basically validate that whatever I've said to them on the actual application form is accurate or not. I think it's pretty straightforward request. But it's just going to be a matter of spending a lot of time scanning the document and getting it collated. Fine. Okay, so the next and the final document is the referee letter. Now, this actually is the hardest thing, I think, among all of the documents that needed to be submitted. But basically, there are two letters that you need to get. And you need to have two independent referees. So one referee needs to be a British citizen, and that's anybody. And the second one, it needs to be a person from any country, but they need to be a professional, such as a lawyer, accountant, nurse, driving instructor. I mean, there's a list of people, occupations that the person should have. And they need to have known you for at least 3 years. And they shouldn't be actually family members. So you can't just say, okay, my uncle's a British citizen and I'm just going to go and ask him. Well, that doesn't apply. So you need to basically get these forms filled out and signed by them. And you need to add your photograph here and write down, they need to write down your name and your date of birth behind it and stick it on here. Now, the main challenge with this for me was not so getting the referee, but actually finding the document, because it's quite annoying. When you actually fill out the application form, there's no link available that actually tells you here is the referee letter template and go and use this specifically. So when I search for it online, you actually end up on the naturalization page and there's like a manual form which you would actually have to write down. There's a second link though, where you can actually find the referee letter that I'm talking about, or rather I've screenshotted here. So what I'll do is I'll share this, but please make sure you do your own research, because this is based on my own research and this is what I'm going to use for my own application. So that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about in terms of documentation and what I'm going to be submitting for my application. My next steps essentially are that I'm just waiting for my referee letters to come through, and these should come through in the next week or so. And I officially finished 12 months of having a ILR actually in the first week of December. So my plan is to submit the application form in the first week of December, use the referee letters that I've gotten, and submit the application. Now, I don't know what happens after that, but I will keep you posted when I get to that stage. But hopefully this has helped you out. And if it did, please smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'd love to get your comments and feedback on this video, or if anything that I've not covered, and I always try and answer any questions that come across on the comment section if I can answer them. But that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much and goodbye.